Yeah, lovely. Thank you. So good morning, everyone. This is our second Hungarian-British Business Alliance Internet Online International Networking event. And one of the reasons why I really love to do that, because I am able to meet globally amazing, successful, like-minded business people like you, our kind guest. Thank you very much for joining us. And I'm also very excited to welcome our guest, our keynote speaker today, James Clusky, who I will let you know later something about him, and Peter Wilcock, our non-exec or my non-exec chair, will be interviewing him. Just the agenda very quickly. After the half an hour, 45 minutes, it depends on, James will be sharing his ideas, his advice to us with Peter. After that, we'll have an opportunity, or you will have an opportunity, 2 minutes per person, to introduce yourself, your company, your services. And we'll be doing networking, we'll be discussing what we have heard or what our plans is. And after the interview with James, there will be a Q&A session where you will be able to put questions. And obviously, nothing can happen without Paul Smolinski, who is our Director of Global Relationship. So after Paul will share some ideas about our possibilities and why and in what way we are building our community. So, James, you are more than welcome. I'm absolutely honored to have you, because James is the visionary behind Give Learn, a cutting-edge soft skill development solution designed to help companies not only attract, but also retain top talent, with a range of live and non-demand virtual classes taught by some of the world's leading experts, including rocket scientists, entrepreneurs, and NFL players, and so on. What's more, the platform uniquely combines learning with social impact, offering users to earn points that can be used to support various social causes. As a former professional tennis player who once ranked 145th in the world, James knows what it takes to achieve success at the highest level. With 9 years of experience playing David Cup for Ireland and a role as a private tennis coach to none other than Richard Branson, the founder of Virgin, he brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to his work. And Peter Wilcock, our non-exec chair, bestseller author, mentor, and internationally well-known director and business leader, will interview you. So Peter, please carry on. The stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Susanna. Thank you very much. And welcome, everybody. And welcome, James.
Thank you, Peter. Good to see you again.
Now, there's a purpose that we're here for, which is, as you well know, having spoken previously, is to enhance my backhand. Now, we spoke a while back, and you gave me some tips on my backhand, and I've got to say, it's probably as good as a club player gets right now. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that.
No problem. My work
is done. I owe you. So you not only, I think from now on, you should not only say that you're Branson's tennis coach, but you've got permission to say you're mine.
Yeah.
So.
You'll be my number one student.
Thank you. Right. So let's just talk a little bit about tennis, because tennis and Ireland, without being rude, they're not a natural fit. So
yeah.
So how does a young guy from Ireland, instead of Gaelic football and boxing and all the other things, how do you get into tennis in the first place?
Yeah, good question. I don't know if anyone on here, and thank you for having me again, but I don't know if anyone on here has read the book Bounce by Matthew Said. It's a really interesting book about like the 10,000 hour rules and all that sort of stuff. It just so happened that an indoor tennis center opened close to my house with 7 indoor courts beside where I went to school. So it was kind of like the stars aligned. And then the bigger thing was that when I was 14, so before that, so my mom was into tennis. I kind of got into it that way. But when I was 14, a coach moved to Ireland to take the job running that indoor center. A Canadian guy by the name of Larry Jervich, who was an amazing coach, but also an amazing kind of person and teacher and mentor and so on. So it was really through that. I mean, if I can relate it to business, I think, you know, it's really important the people that you surround yourself with in terms of the network and the people that you hang out with and so on. And it was just really by chance that Larry moved to Ireland from Canada to take that job. And he created this high performance environment where, you know, all the players were pushing each other along, and a lot of us ended up going to college in the States, which I did, and then some of us obviously went on to play professionally, and some didn't. But it was that environment that was created really by Larry. So it was a little bit lucky in some ways, but I think it's important who you end up surrounding yourself with.
Yeah, it's interesting that, and I know that's from Paul's heart, that it is about, well, networking, which is what we're doing here, but also the people that you do mix with. And I think, you know, going to business, I don't think people appreciate the value of network and meeting people, number one, and also getting that group of people around you that can push you on rather than pull you back down. You think?
Yeah, and if I go back a step, so, you know, Larry, when we were training in Ireland when we were 15, 16, I mean, we trained 6 days a week before and after school and so on. And when we were going to tournaments, I remember one of the first tournaments I was going to, I said, oh, it'd be great if I qualify into the tournament. And he kind of looked at us and looked at me and said, no, you're going to try and win the tournament, right? So like, and I think the mindset maybe before, in Irish tennis, before he kind of came along, the mindset was like, we're kind of happy to almost take part in it a little bit. And I think that the same as business, right? I think if you can you know, meet good people in authentic way, and you know, I think everyone adds value in terms of what you're doing to other people. I think it's reciprocal in terms of networking. But I think that kind of support system, people who dream big, people who encourage you, people who are also realist as well. So you can't be, you know, I don't think it has to be all fluffy and so on, but I think that support network of people is really important, and that's why things like, you know, this community and other communities is great in terms of that.
Yeah, and talking about mindset, James. So if you go to a tennis club, and it, you know, it's important to make the analogy with business as well. If you see 14, 15-year-old kids and they look amazing, and then you see somebody like the club coach who looks amazing, and Susanna said about your world ranking, and you go, well, that's not number one. But the difference between number 1 and 145 isn't the forehand or backhand or smash, is it? Because the gap is that, really. It's what goes on in your head.
Completely, yeah. Go on, sorry.
So so the kind of top level have, and we'll get to Branson in a sec, and you've experienced these people. I'm interested in what their mindset is, because I've always believed that they think differently to everybody else.
Yeah, I think a couple of things, and I think it's a fascinating discussion. I think one word that I don't think is used enough in business and sport, and I'm trying to think if it was Carol Dweck who said it in her book on mindset, but it's the word grit. And I think grit is just really important, right? It's like, you know, as a tennis player, you know, I went to a lot of really nice places, but also a lot of really challenging places, and lost a lot of matches and won a lot of matches. But I think the power of tennis is that you unless you're, say, Novak Djokovic or Roger Federer or Martina Navratilova or one of these kind of legends, you're losing most weeks. And I think in business, I think that mindset where maybe you have a big deal that doesn't come off, or a disappointment with something or other. I think that grit of actually believing in that vision of what you're trying to achieve, and not getting knocked off too much in terms of that vision, and being resilient and fighting for it. I think that's the difference. And I think for me, they say that half the battle is showing up, right? I think if I look back at my tennis career, I think you go up different levels of playing, from futures to challengers to ATP events to slams and so on. I don't want to get too technical on it, but I think the difference that I notice with the better guys is they show up the next day, right? If they lose a match, they show up for training. They train maybe after the match. They do more reps. They train smarter. All those types of things. Whereas, if you kind of generalize, maybe the person that's they give up easily, or maybe they go on a big night out in the town or whatever it is, as opposed to losing a tough match, getting up the next day and working hard, or in a business sense, losing a deal or something obviously difficult happening, but half the battle is showing up. You dust yourself off and you go again.
Yeah, and we'll that leads us to Richard Branson. And I've always thought, and obviously I worked for Virgin Media, and so experienced some of that of the kind of Virgin ethos. But I think most people, they read his book and they go, "Oh, it's Branson," and they've got this sort of halo effect. But talking about grit, he's lost a lot of businesses. And what do you see in your interactions with him about this showing up business when he's had a lot of things that didn't go well?
Yeah, so I think if I go back a step, because I always think this is a good story to tell in terms of me ending up on Necker for the first time in 2015, and just to say, I always kind of say that the power of one phone call. So I played a tournament. I met a couple of players at the players' party. They talked about this event called the Necker Cup. I ended up calling the guy. It was a bit of a lukewarm kind of cold call. And when I think of in terms of my own career, where that one phone call has led me to, so the power of one conversation, one call, and where it can take you in terms of your career. In terms of Richard, I've been very lucky to I would go there for a month at a time, and I would be with him pretty much for the day. I play tennis with him twice a day. And I think in terms of lessons from him, that kind of is the word resilience. It's just he's a beast in terms of his work ethic. So like he works really hard, right? So like on the tennis court, for example, he's twice a day, again back to that, just showing up, but he's there twice a day, every day. He never misses a beat. And then I used the word with him once when we were chatting. I said, if you could describe one word, I came up with the word relentless. And I think he's relentless when it comes to just that kind of work ethic. But and then secondly to that, in terms of, I suppose, other learnings around the kind of mindset piece, is he's an incredibly positive person. So he's always kind of glass half full from my interactions with him and experiences with him. So I have been there I was there with him when the Omicron strain hit and the Virgin Atlantic flights were cancelled to South Africa. So it wasn't all, everything is rosy, and he was really disappointed, and it wasn't like he was Mr. Positive, but he was also like, okay, this is what we have to do, and we need to do this and this. It's just always kind of being positive and that kind of mindset to keep going and perform, essentially.
And I got told a story recently about that period. If you remember, Virgin Atlantic was on the edge, and there was a period where I mean, a friend of mine, he's CEO. He was at NTL with me, Shywise, and they were trying to raise funds. And then a friend of mine had a friend who went to stay with Branson at the time, and he decided he needed to kind of raise the profile. Decided to go on the space shuttle thing, and he was told he shouldn't because it was too dangerous, and you know he's the main man, so it's too risky. And he did it, and by doing it, it kind of raised the profile. More investors came in, and Atlantic got rescued. And the point was that there was nothing he wouldn't do to save that business. Which is another thing, isn't it? That positivity, but also looking at the angles to go, well, we're struggling here, but what can I do that's completely left field that will affect something else? And it's that, again, it's back to that mindset, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I asked one of the very senior people in Virgin what's his secret sauce in terms of what he does, and he said his ability to take risk was something that kind of stood out in terms of that kind of piece. But and I think to be fair, I think if he lost it all tomorrow, it wouldn't change him. You know, he's a very kind of he just kind of loves people and loves creating things, and is always kind of trying to think 2 steps ahead. And I've been very lucky to I suppose to kind of spend time with him and learn from him and learn from that philosophy. And I think, and I would say this in the politest way, that he, you know, you don't speak to him and think this guy is this, you know, I've sat beside, you know, very technical people where I talk to them, I'm like, geez, I don't know what they're talking about. Whereas with Richard, it's never like he doesn't reinvent the wheel. But I think that EQ is very, very strong, you know. So I think it's been inspirational for me in terms of, you know, my career and learning from someone like him. So very fortunate.
Yeah, and he also says he doesn't want to be the smartest guy in the room. You know, for me, that's another lesson. But that sometimes it's not always about you being right, is it? If you put a team around you who are smarter than you, it's going to make you smarter, isn't it?
Yeah, and so really interestingly, so the second time I went there, so the first time I went for the tennis event, second time I went back to work one-to-one with him, and I'd met him previously, but I didn't kind of, you know, I didn't know him very well or anything. And he was driving along the golf cart, and this is the day before I kind of started with him on court. And he said to me, I said, James, good to see you again. I'm gonna, you know, with you tomorrow, whatever. And he said, I'm really looking forward to learning from you. And that's something that not a lot of people would, you know, it kind of took me aback a little bit in terms of that saying. And then one or the other, and he's spoken a lot around kind of, you know, listening and not being the smartest guy in the room and all that sort of stuff. But one other entrepreneur who I met through Richard, a guy called Kurt Long, who's a rocket scientist and entrepreneur who's done some sessions on Give Learn. I asked Kurt around doing a session on leadership, and Kurt said he wanted to do a session around the topic of listening, and he called it listening the greatest business asset you need to develop. And I think that's something probably we don't talk a lot about in terms of leadership, is that kind of being able to listen, you know, listen really well and listen effectively, and how we need to develop that.
Yeah, interesting that, because I guess on the tennis court, you're the master, aren't you? So that relationship changes, doesn't it?
Yeah, completely. Yeah. So sorry, on the tennis court with him, is that what you're asking?
Yeah. So he is actually. So he goes from here, and then once you pick the racket up, he goes there, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's a good point in that, like, he is learning from me on the tennis court. I'm learning from him and everything else, but I'm confident enough of my tennis ability to be able to teach him. And then also on that, actually, one of the guys who actually is a coach there was saying, so Bill Gates has been out there a few times, and it's funny the way people learn in different ways, right? So like, and I think that's to relate it to business. I think it's an interesting piece around, like, people have different personalities, right? So, you know, accountants are different to entrepreneurs and so on. And I know I'm kind of generalizing a little bit, but how you give information can change depending on who you're giving the information to and how they receive it and so on. So my friend was saying that Bill Gates was very, on my forehand, what degree should my elbow be away from he was just so technical in terms of the information he wanted, whereas Richard's the other way. He's not looking for that kind of technical information. Whereas with your backhand, Peter, I'm not sure what you're looking for, but
I'm just looking for, my goal is to get to go to bed at night thinking about one shot from the session.
that's a good goal.
Yeah. So, and I think again, it's about in business. Sometimes you think people get lost in the kind of the game rather than what do you really want to get out of it? Whether you win or lose, you can win and play badly, can't you? Or you can lose and go back and think, wow, there were some amazing things going on there.
Yeah.
And that can be a business day as well.
And
so the links are similar, aren't they? And I think that's why sport and business, they are quite interactive, aren't they? I always found that business people look up to sports people and they try and replicate what sports people do, this high performance stuff you talked about. And then the sports people kind of want to get into business.
Yeah,
which works perfectly for you getting to Necker.
Because
you're getting the business side, and they're trying to do something that they can't do that you can do.
Yeah. No, it's a really good point. I was just going to say on your previous point that one of the sessions we had on Give Learn was around mindset, and the guy, he was a former professional rugby player, and he did his master's on correlation between high performance business and sport. So he went and visited, these different organizations. He went to Dyson. He met James Dyson. He went to Manchester United, where he got to interview Alex Ferguson and so on. But he went to Williams Formula One, and he was saying that. So obviously for Formula One people, Williams was obviously big in the 90s and probably has been successful in the last number of years. But he was saying that when he interviewed the finance person or different people on different teams, their one philosophy was, will it make the car go faster? So will this decision that we're making now make the car go faster on the track? And they kept coming back to that. I thought it was quite interesting in terms of that philosophy where, sometimes in business and sport, we can kind of lose a bit of focus and we do 50 million things but is it actually making the car go faster on the track?
Yeah, that's interesting, Matt. So, and I think for everybody here to put it into that one thing. So, for Susanna, Paul, Mike, whatever, what is your make the car go faster? Because you're right, once you boil that down, it becomes very simple, doesn't it? The other thing, just on Formula One and talking about mindset, I was interested that Lawrence Stroll bought Aston Martin and the share price dropped 96%. And at one point, about a year ago, 18 months ago, the debt was 1 billion and the share price value was 1.1 billion. So me, and I think 99.99% of people would think, this is a mess. So what did he do? Went and raised 700 million.
Jeez, yeah.
And I thought, and now they're kind of third in the championship. Share price is rising, car sales are going up. And I thought, that's an amazing, that's back to the Branson thing of, that mindset is, well, we're just going to keep going. We're going to show up rather than would somebody buy it because it's a mess.
Completely. And I mean, I see that in tennis now in terms of so I got to 145 and I retired when I was 29 in terms of from tennis. I could have kept going. I had a sponsor I kind of lost a little bit of my fire for the travel, and I wanted to kind of get into business as well. So that was kind of my reasoning. But then I see guys that I played with that were not that, I mean, not amazing, and they kind of pushed through that wall, right? And they got, and it's like, I don't know, that picture of the guy digging for oil, or you know, it's like you're almost there.
Yeah.
And I do think that in terms of business and sport is again, that vision is really important, and I think a lot of people can get sidetracked and pushed off their vision, but it's trying to stay true to what you're creating, what you're building, believing in what you're doing, and keep going, and keep working smart for it.
Yeah, there's a story in Think and Grow Rich, isn't there, about the guy's got a gold mine and he thinks the seam's dried up, so he says to this guy, "Oh, sell all the equipment, get rid of it." And the guy who buys the equipment, takes the equipment, says, "Well, we might, forget that. We might as well just start drilling over there somewhere and open this seam that made him the richest guy in America," or something crazy. That giving up too early is another lesson, isn't it?
Yeah, completely. Yeah, no, I really, I really think that. I think it's, and actually, one of the business people I met on Necker, I said, "Well, what book do you think I should read?" And they said, "Think and Grow Rich." And I said, "Oh yeah, I'll read that." And they said, "Don't read it, study it." So I don't know if anyone on here has actually read that book, but it's a brilliant book.
Yeah, and I think that's really true. I don't think you can sum it up, that book, because every time you read it, there's something else in there. Yeah, but it's interesting that on Necker, there's a certain type of person there, predominantly successful, but back to read the book, they don't stop learning, do they?
No, and I think that's a really, really valid point, Peter. So, I've been there numerous times where at different weeks there's different events going on. So I remember there was an event where there was a lot of the head of Google, they call it the Google Moonshot Factory, was on the island basically. So they had different speakers, and Richard said to me, "I'll come up to the house and you should watch this guy. I think he's going to be really good." And I went up to the house anyway, and he's front row, and he's got his notebook there, and he's jotting his notes down. So like, learning never stops, right? And what you can pick up from different people and in different industries, different areas, different walks of life, I think it's really important to be open to that as well.
Yeah. And tell us about Give Learn. I presume you take all those lessons, and that's what Give Learn's all about, really, is it?
Yeah, so Give Learn is all around soft skill development. So, a lot of training is focused on technical skills. We do soft skill development. So we have different themes each month, different classes. So for example, we had last month presentation skills, this month communications, next month resilience. So we have different classes. We have a class every week. We have 4 a month. They're all virtual classes. And then what we do is we reward engagement. So users earn points, and they can use those points to donate to social causes. So there's a link. We link learning to doing good. We also have, thanks to Mr. Branson, we have a trip on the Virgin Voyages next year on the cruise ship for the person that kind of attends and engages the most, and so on. So look, I'm really passionate about things that, I'm sure Paul preaches around networking and things like presentation skills, communications, all those types of areas that I think we probably don't spend enough time on.
Yeah, that's good. So I think my bit's wrapping up now. So let me ask you a couple of quick fire ones, James. What would you say the best advice you've ever been given?
Surround yourself with the people you want to become.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Yeah. I think that's a Robin Sharma quote. Actually, I think I read it in one of his books. I don't know if people have read that book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. But yeah, that's and then I think the second one is never get too high or too low from tennis, in terms of when you're winning, you don't get you know, you don't get too cocky or too high, and when you're losing and things aren't going well, you're not getting too low. So you try and keep even keel. I think that's the same in business.
Yeah. And if you took one quality from the people you've met, what would that quality be?
Belief, I would say. Yeah, I would say. I think and we had a program on our platform on imposter syndrome as a topic in terms of, you know, dealing with imposter syndrome, and it's something that I've definitely had from time to time, and I think from people I've met, it's just that innate belief, right? That they believe in the universe, they believe things will come good, and so on. So I think that if you bottle that, I think it'd be good.
Yeah.
Bottle and sell it.
Yeah, I always think, you know, that there's a phrase in there, seeing is believing, and I saw it turned around that believing is seeing.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. And then last time we spoke, we had this, so far I still laugh about it. I asked you to pick you people you'd play tennis with, and one of them was Mother Teresa, right?
Did I pick Mother Teresa?
You did. And then, for various reasons, and then you said that partly because she'd be great to lob. she's like 4'2". Anyway, I'm not going to ask you that. I'm going to ask you. You can go to your favourite restaurant, wherever that may be.
Yeah.
And you can take 4 people, alive or dead,
God,
to put around your table. Who are you going to take to dinner?
4 people. Geez, that's very tough.
You can't take Paul, by the way.
Yeah,
We've done that.
Yeah.
He'd invite himself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He'd be at another table.
Yeah. Well, Paul would have made it a table of 10 and sold 6 tickets. Anyway, 4 people, James.
I'd like to meet. I think I'd like to meet Obama. I think, geez, I'm really struggling with this one now. Like, because I kind of think on one side, like I never met either of my granddads, so like that kind of thing of like people that I've never met before, you know. Or if you're talking like high profile,
not family.
Not family. Okay, so I'd love to meet like John Hume, who was a politician in Northern Ireland who was involved in like the peace process. He would be one person. I think he's amazing. Bono would be another. I'm a huge U2 fan. So I'm trying to get.
What would you get from, apart from the music? What would you get from Bono?
So it's actually a really good question. So I am obsessed with how these guys from the north side of Dublin, from a really, you know, not an amazing place, how they ended up being the biggest band in the world, and how you know, they worked their ass off to get there. And actually Bono is an incredible investor as well. So he's invested really, really well. So he's a very smart guy. So yeah, Obama, Bono. I'm not sure who else now. I don't want to kind of take too much time.
There's one you have to say, otherwise your contracts will be cancelled.
Mr. Branson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah. No, I'll take him. Yeah, him and his wife Joan. Yeah, that'd be great. They'll wrap up the 4.
Okay. That'll do. Great. All right, James. So fascinating for me. I love talking to you. You know, for me, you know, mindset. I think the grit you talk about, belief, so powerful. I love that. And this whole thing of learning and getting around people who, you know, push you on, not drag you back. I think those things, I think, are just and you know, showing up and keeping going. Then I think that's amazing for people to take away from this.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
And before we finish, so most of my backhand errors go in the net, not long. Just finally, what would you say to fix that?
So topspin, hit up on the ball.
More topspin.
Yeah, more topspin. Give yourself good height, good margin over the net.
Right.
Simplest tip in tennis is the ball has to go where the strings are pointed. So if you're pointing the racket down, or it's going to go in the net. So yeah.
Okay.
But it's
Thank
a
you.
lost cause,
Thank you.
Peter. Just give up now, I think. That backhand.
And also, don't forget, you promised me a date in
Bring it to Wimbledon. I was
Yes.
waiting for you to. I was waiting for you to call me, but there was no. We'll have to do lunch or something, and happy to host you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Amazing. Right. Thank you so much, James. That was brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, lovely. Thank you so much, James and Peter. I think all of us have enjoyed your amazing, fascinating conversation. And apart from getting a lot of advice about being resilient, about work ethic, mindset, we have been informed about Bill Gates' elbow. So I've never ever heard about Bill Gates' elbow. Very important technique. Lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we look forward to having you, James, in our next event, in HBBI event, because our valued members and our would-be valued members would love to meet you in person.
Perfect.
And before you, our kind guest, are introducing yourselves in 2 minutes, and we are making some conversation. Any question you have, would you like to put any questions that James haven't mentioned, or you are interested in anybody? Don't forget to unmute yourself, please.
Put your hands up. Anyone's a question to ask.
Yeah.
Perfect. And just while people are doing that, so I'm going to put a link in the chat box if you want to register for Give Learn complimentary. You can see all our previous classes. We've had, as I said, Kurt Long, the rocket scientist. We had Sharissa, who went to space on Virgin Galactic. So there's loads of different content in there. So I'm just putting that in there if people want to register. I'm also just putting my name. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn as well, please feel free to do that. And if I can help in any way with anyone, please reach out. So
we will. Thank you. Yeah. Moses, please ask him.
Thank you very much. And thanks for the presentation, James. That was amazing. James, my question for you basically is, when you were going through, so in your times of playing tennis, when you were playing, for example, you had a match you were playing and the match wasn't going too well, what was going through your mind and what got you through that? So what went through your mind during that game? So in terms of when you face life and things don't go the way you planned for it to go, how do you reconnect yourself?
Yeah, really good question, Moses. Thank you. When you were asking that, I was thinking of in terms of pressure. So when you're in the match, so when I played, say, for Ireland against Hungary or different Davis Cup matches or big matches, when the pressure is on, I think people have a tendency when there's high pressure, they speed up, they don't take their time. And a sports, I worked with a sports psychologist, and the way he talked about it was that you speed up because you want to get out of that situation as quickly as possible, right? So like if you think of someone who's in the airport, who's late for a flight, and they're trying to find their gate and they're all faffed, right? But actually if you took a moment, take a deep breath and actually pause and think, okay, where's my gate or whatever it is, right? So on the court or in the heat of a battle, it's taking those moments, taking that time to kind of try and think clearly and be present in the moment so you can deal with the situation at hand. Because I think that's when people struggle with pressure, right? Where pressure gets on top of you or you become overwhelmed and so on. So I think it's taking that moment, taking that deep breath and trying to figure out a way forward. So hopefully that kind of gives you a little insight into that question.
Awesome, thank you. I had one more, if you don't mind me asking.
Go ahead.
It's basically, what is one thing that you do every day that keeps James going forward? What is that one thing that you know unfailingly, this is like my ritual, this is something that keeps me mentally stable? Just one of the things you do every day to keep you going.
Yeah, so I go for a walk every morning, and it's funny. So one of the things I picked up from working with Richard was I looked at him and I thought, this guy is one of the busiest people in the world. You know, he's now we're all busy, so just to say that, but he's incredibly busy, right? But he plays tennis every day, twice a day, and it's his kind of drug of choice. So it doesn't matter how busy he is, he makes sure that he has that time to play tennis, right? So I kind of took reflection from that and thought, sometimes I wake up and I think, oh my God, I have to get back to the email from Paul, or I have to send Susanna something, or I have to do this and this. I just don't have time to do anything. I need to just work, right? But actually what I took was, by going for that walk or by doing something physically active, whatever that is, it actually makes me more productive during the day. So if I do miss that walk or I miss that kind of exercise in the morning, then it makes me less productive. So for me, that's the big thing. And then typically what I do on that walk is I will listen to maybe a business podcast, or I sometimes listen to a motivational podcast, or I might just listen to like a sports podcast as well. So I do listen to something on it, and that kind of sets me up for the day. Thanks, Moses.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Is there anyone, put your hands, is there anyone who would like to ask anything from James?
Susanna, I just want to share one thing with James, and obviously a lot of people don't know this, and the ones who are close to me do know this. James is one of the people is how I got to meet Richard Branson. When I went to Ireland and spoke at an event with 400 people, we stood on stage and we said, anyone who knows Richard Branson? And someone in the audience said, yeah, I know someone who's just come back from Necker Islands, a girl called Kathleen, who's a fantastic singer, an entrepreneur. And I started talking to her. She said, well, let me introduce you to Richard Branson's tennis coach. And I got introduced to James. And obviously through the power of networking, me and James started talking. I said, listen, James, come and talk to my events to raise your profile in the UK. And he said, well, for doing that for me, Paul, let me introduce you to Richard Branson's right-hand man, which is Trevor Short. So I met Trevor at Wimbledon and did an event with Trevor with like 100 guests there, and James was there. And from that one event, I had an agreement and a contract with Trevor that I was the only guy who could take people to Necker Islands with Richard Branson and meet all his fantastic clients. So it just goes to show that one person can change your life. And James was part of that process that made it happen for me. And also Dom's on the line, who we took to Necker as well. So you're only one connection away of making your dreams come true. So that's the power of networking, what it does. So I'm also very honored to be great friends with James, and obviously, and never forget what he did for me to have the experience to meet Richard Branson and have that partnership with my clients to take people there. So thank you, James, again.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind. You didn't add that Dom is banned now from Necker, right?
Dom's on the line.
Yeah. You drank the bar. You both drank the bar dry, so they no joke. No, it's great. I think in terms of networking, I think I get a great kind of. I think people like helping other people. You know, I think it's reciprocal, right? People help each other. I think that's why these kind of networks are so important. That you're a couple of degrees of separation from someone, right? So and I think it's really thinking like that and helping people when you can, and believing in the universe that what goes around comes around.
And I'll tell also, James, I think if you share with the people online here, is Richard's network of people is insane. It's, I've been to thousands of events in my life, and I've never been to the events at Necker of the people who attend there. The amount of millionaires and billionaires and successful people you've never heard of, but once you Google them, you see they're worth 5, 6, 7 billion pounds. Very successful people, and that's the people that Richard hangs around with. And it's incredible. His network is is amazing. And those events that we do on Necker for the whole week, the people there, James, it's life-changing, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm just laughing because I'm thinking of one thing just to kind of finish off is I went to his birthday last year on his cruise ship, and we we went into they took us to these caves, you know, to do some kind of cave diving thing or whatever. And I was in a group with a couple of billionaires, basically, male and female, and myself and my girlfriend, and we were like, if these caves collapsed, it would be like, you know, billionaire Richard Branson, billionaires, and then 2 unidentified bodies, like, so just to finish off that. I hope you didn't Google my net worth.
Brilliant.
Awesome, wonderful, lovely. Okay, yeah, Paul, do you mind carrying on? Or is there anyone who would like to put more questions?
Mark's got a question.
If I may, yeah, hi, James. Good morning, Mark
Morning.
Wilcox. What, if I may, what motivates you, excites you, and knowing you're going to become personal tennis trainer to Peter? What's your plans, sort of, during a 3-year period? Are you going to reach for the stars? Are you going to do something completely off the Richter scale? Or are you going to simply retire? What gets you going?
No, good question. So you know, I think when I was a tennis player, it was very clear in terms of my ranking is this. I'm trying to get here. You know, that's and you have a mountain in front of you that you're looking to climb, right? And I think when I finished playing professionally, I think the transition from, and I think maybe there's people on the call that go through this in terms of transitioning in different businesses and so on. It was kind of trying to find what the next mountain was that I wanted to climb, and you know, I did 1 or 2 things, but now with Give Learn, in terms of the, you know, the learning platform, which has been going a couple of years and going well and growing and all those types of things, I'm really passionate about that. I'm really passionate about helping people develop their soft skills and creating a company that's for profit before good and so on. So I actually feel like a tennis player again. You know, I feel like I'm kind of hustling and I'm working hard and I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and so that kind of drives me, and that's the plan for the next few years in terms of growing Give Learn and growing the platform and the user base and all those types of things. So that's the immediate plan for the next, you know, couple of years, and we'll go from there and see what happens.
It very much sounds like you were continually and always looking for the next challenge, and to give you the next buzz and next hype. And may I wish you well. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, no, I think yeah, like I think life is too short, you know, to do something you don't enjoy doing. And I think you know, we all have challenges along the way, but I think for the most part, I'm not saying I jump out of bed every morning, because I don't, but for the most part, I'm really, really passionate about what I'm doing and really excited about it. So
Wonderful.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much. Dr. Ant, you have a question too.
Hello, James.
Hey, Dr.
How you
Ant,
doing?
how are you? Good, thanks.
Very well, thanks. Hey, look, James, I'm a mindset expert, but I've got a specific question for you.
Oh, wow, you put me on the spot now.
So, James, if someone was to come to you and say, James, I'm really struggling with my mindset, you know, I can't get things together, I keep thinking the wrong things, who would you recommend they talk to?
Dr. Ant. Easy.
James, I've hooked up with you on LinkedIn. This chat.
Yeah, yeah, love to speak to you. Can see and have a look at the platform. You'll see all the classes we have and stuff. We had Dream Big Mindset in January and so on. So yeah.
Sounds really good. I'll hook up separately, save taking up time here.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, James, all of us here and those who haven't been able to join us, look forward to having you in person in our next event. And you will be invited, you will be informed about what HBBA has been growing, and you are very, very welcome guest. And now, Paul, would you share some ideas, please, about what James, Peter, our lovely guest, and we are planning to do in the future?
Yeah, I think obviously our next event we have is at the Hungarian Embassy on the 10th of May, which we've got between 40 and 50 companies from Hungary coming over. It's going to be a fabulous occasion. We have an opportunity to network with people from Hungary and also in the UK. I've been to the embassy. It's a fantastic building. And so put that date in your diary. It's opportunities to grow your network. We got guests coming, and we got some amazing speakers as well lined up for that event. And obviously we got amazing events coming up for June and July. And obviously after the event, guys, those who are interested, who want to join our network, we've got some really exciting news to tell you what we've got planned in Wales and obviously in the UK. Stay on and I'll share that with you guys. So some really exciting times ahead to be part of it. And one thing I would say about for everyone on here, please connect with James. James is very well connected in the business world, not just in the UK, but globally. So I would recommend everyone on here follow James on LinkedIn, connect with him, have a one-to-one with him. I'm sure he can help you in your network, who you want to meet, who's your target audience, and people who you want to be connected to much higher level of business people out there in the community. So I would recommend that highly, guys.
Well, wonderful. Thank you. Okay, James, if you are happy to stay with us, you are more than welcome. We would love you to have you here. If you are busy, it's up to you, because now I would like, or we would like to provide our guests to introduce themselves in 2 minutes. So
I need to jump off, Susanna.
yeah.
All right. Thank you, Peter. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks,
Bye now.
Peter.
Thanks, Peter.
Cheers, James.
See you.
We'll catch up.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll
See you
stay on.
soon.
I'll stay on for a couple of minutes, Susanna, if that's okay. I'd love to kind of hear, and I'll drop off probably in a couple of minutes as well. Just have another call, but can stay on for a few.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much. So, yeah, I'm kindly asking you, please, to think over what we've been listening to from these amazing mentors, coaches, business owners, and now it's your turn to make an introduction in 2 minutes. So, who is the first volunteer? István, please. May I ask you to make an introduction in 2 minutes, please?
Can I share my screen? No, okay.
Good.
Good, then
Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. So my name is István, and I work for an idea called Hempcrete Yurt. Basically, I want to start with a video that I shared in the messages in this Zoom link. His Royal Highness Prince Charles was giving a video message to the 100th anniversary of economic relationships between our countries.